Looking for a dream house?
Always have your own doctor and a realtor. There is no shortcut to experience and knowledge. You want to buy, sell, or invest? Residential or commercial? Experience the difference with Azfar Tahir, your full-time realtor for life. Welcome to the Realtors Cafe with Azfar Tahir. कैसे हैं आप? खैरियत से ठीक ठाक हैं? होप ऑल इज वेल एट योर एंड और वेदर को भी इंजॉय कर रहे होंगे. वेदर में काफ़ी चेंज आ गई है एंड लेकिन जैसे ही स्प्रिंग आया तो थोड़ी सा इट गॉट कोल्ड और विंटर्स काफ़ी माइल्ड हमारे निकल गए, थैंक गॉड. और लेकिन अभी भी यू सी देयर वाज लॉट ऑफ रेन ड्यूरिंग द लास्ट फ्यू इयर्स, फ्यू डेज. तो अब यह है कि काफ़ी वेदर बेहतर हो रहा है. डेज आर वार्मर एंड इवनिंग नाइट्स आर लिटिल कूलर. ये भी अच्छा है, हमें आदत पड़ गई ना, रात को ज़्यादा गर्मी तो नींद में नहीं आती. तो इट्स वेरी नाइस, वेदर इज इम्प्रूविंग. काफ़ी कुछ करने को है स्प्रिंग एंड समर्स में, यू नो इट्स वेरी शॉर्ट लिव्ड. तो एंजॉय कीजिए. काफ़ी एक्टिविटीज़ आर हैपनिंग इन एंड अराउंड द सिटी. कॉन्सर्ट्स आर हैपनिंग, सम फेस्टिवल्स आर कमिंग अप. तो काफ़ी कुछ हो रहा है. तो अपने फ्रेंड्स एंड फैमिली के साथ जाइए, एंजॉय कीजिए और वेदर को ज़रूर एंजॉय कीजिए बिकॉज डेज आर लिटिल लॉन्गर नाउ. पहले ये था कि 4-4:30 डार्क हो जाता है, सनसेट, तो बड़ी एक डिप्रेशन सी होती है विंटर्स में. लेकिन अब ये है कि अब डेज आर लॉन्गर, सनसेट थोड़ा सा लेट हो रहा है. अभी आगे चल के और डे लाइट जो है और बढ़ जाएगी. तो एंजॉय कीजिए जब तक ये चल रहा है. तो बात हम करते हैं जी. काफ़ी लोग, इनफैक्ट काफ़ी फ्रेंड्स वगैरह आपकी, थैंक यू वेरी मच, आपकी ईमेल्स वगैरह बहुत आती हैं और काफ़ी आप इस प्रोग्राम को लाइक भी करते हैं एंड काफ़ी आपके क्वेश्चंस होते हैं जो हम कोशिश होती है कि ड्यूरिंग द प्रोग्राम हम उनको रिप्लाई कर सकें. लेकिन मोस्टली मैं ये करता हूँ कि जो ईमेल्स आती हैं हमारे फ्रेंड्स वगैरह की, व्यूअर्स की, तो मैं उनको उसी थ्रू ईमेल रिप्लाई कर देता हूँ बिकॉज डिपेंडिंग अपॉन द अर्जेंसी ऑफ कि क्या उनकी है, किसी को जल्दी इसको चाहिए आंसर. तो कोशिश होती है कि आपको उसमें करें. हमारी ईमेल है जी voiceofTorontoTV@gmail.com, voiceofTorontoTV@gmail.com. प्लीज़ कीप शूटिंग योर ईमेल्स टू अस. अच्छा लगता है आपकी ईमेल्स पढ़ के. तो आज इनफैक्ट काफ़ी दोस्तों की ईमेल्स आती हैं जहाँ भी हम जाते हैं मिलते हैं तो वो ये पूछें जी कि मॉर्गेज रेट्स का क्या बन रहा है यार, मॉर्गेज रेट्स का क्या बनेगा, अभी तक कुछ नीचे नहीं आ रहा, कुछ ये नहीं हो रहा. लेकिन यह कि इस पर हम बात करने के लिए आज हमने अब अपने एक प्रोफेशनल्स जो हैं उनको इनवाइट किया है अपने स्टूडियो में. तो बैंक ऑफ कनाडा तो अभी एक्सपेक्टेड था बट अब लास्ट मंथ, लेकिन उन्होंने नहीं उसमें कट. इस पर फर्दर बात करेंगे. और बैंक्स ने ऑल द मेजर बैंक्स हैव कट देयर रेट्स इंटरनली. उनमें भी आपस में कंपटीशन है. तो इन सब चीज़ों पर बात करने के लिए वी हैव इनवाइटेड टू आवर स्टूडियोज फ्रॉम द मॉर्गेज इंडस्ट्री हैरी अटली. Welcome to the Realtors Cafe, Harry.
Azfar, sir, thank you. It's a beautiful day outside, and it's a pleasure to be here on your TV show today. We are located at Tompkin and Dairy, 7025 Tompkin Road, just above Premium Suites. We're a full-fledged mortgage brokerage, so all solutions that you need, whether it be with the big banks, we work with all of them, or if you need an alternative solution on the B side, or if you need any private financing as a short-term solution for your needs.
That's what I was going to ask you. You're with Active Lending.
Yes, we're with
which is linked with Mortgage Airlines.
Yeah, so we have our own brokerage, it's Active Lending. We are a franchise of Mortgage Airlines. Yes, so we leverage the back-end big network from their side.
Okay, so I mean, a lot of people must be asking you about what's happening with this mortgage rates and all that. So can you tell our viewers what is the current situation and where are we heading towards?
Yeah,
what's
for
going to
sure.
happen?
Mortgages situation right now is as interesting as the weather in Canada, right? I mean, tomorrow in the morning it's a little bit cold. In the afternoon, you have to take off your jacket and take off the sleeves, right? So it's there's a lot of noise. We hear a lot of things from the news outlets. A lot of different things, right? You hear a lot of things from your friends and family as well. They may not even be in the market, right? But ultimately, we know we're in a high interest landscape right now, right? And it's been too long for an extended period of time. We were hoping in our earlier announcements, which were in March and April, to hope for a decrease, but that didn't happen. Now we're hoping that at least in June or July, I personally believe in July.
A lot of people were expecting that the Bank of Canada would do the first rate cut during April.
Yeah.
I also had some insider news. They said, yeah, they would do it, but they didn't do it.
Yeah.
You know, for certain reasons. So would you like to throw some light on that? Why
yeah, for sure. I think, you know, the issue with predicting too far out is that we don't really know what's going to happen from a month-to-month basis, right? So a few things that the Bank of Canada really relies upon is the job numbers, obviously the inflation, and the unemployment, right? So number of jobs that are being created, how many people are actually getting laid off, and where the inflation is going. So when we looked at those numbers in the numbers of January and February and March, those numbers supported that inflation is still on the higher end, right? It was around the 3 mark where it is right now. There was not much in unemployment, and then jobs were being created, right? So that signals to the Bank of Canada that the economy is still doing okay.
But they've been trying to bring it down to 2% range, you know. But
yeah, and it wasn't coming down, right? And job numbers were still good, and people weren't getting laid off at the rate that they wanted to. So that speaks that the economy was still good. So if the economy is doing good, there's no reason for the Bank of Canada to bring down the rates, because you want to bring the rates down to help the economy when it's struggling. If it's not struggling, then you want to leave the rates kind of where they're at and see what happens, right? So obviously the economy wasn't really good, right? That's why there were no rate increases, but it was not bad as well, right? So it wasn't coming down. Now, however, we're starting to see a little bit more of that, right? So the March numbers that have come out in the month of April, and in May, we're gonna keep an eye on the same numbers for the month of April, right? So now I'm hearing, the numbers officially gonna come out, but I'm hearing that there are more job losses. And a lot of big companies, we're talking about Financial District downtown, a lot of those companies are on a hiring freeze, even letting go of some people, right? Mm-hmm. So when these numbers start to reflect within the economy and we see those come out, Bank of Canada is going to have a very hard decision to make. Do they take the rates down or do they keep it up?
Okay, so but generally, because I was dealing with a couple of my friends, you know, mm-hmm. and but I think all the commercial banks, they have cut their rates internally. But now it's quite competitive. If you look at their offerings. I mean, about 3 months ago, the 5 years fix was in the range of 6.5% or so, mm-hmm. but now it has come down to 5%. So probably this competition between the banks, yep. and that's why they're trying to cut the rates internally. So we'd like to tell our viewers what is happening inside the bank, you know, yeah. because if you're going for a renewal, you already have a mortgage, then you might not get that rate what they're offering to probably for the new clients. Is that right, or?
Yeah, so let's talk about the renewal thing first, right? So as we know that when you get a renewal done at a bank, if you sign up with if you renew with your existing bank or your existing lender, you do not need to provide any income documentation, right? It's literally a 2-page paper that you sign and you kind of get away with, right? So one of the things that the banks know is that it's harder for people to qualify for a mortgage because of the high interest landscape we're in right now. So a lot of them, if you do personal banking with them, they know what your income is to a good extent, right? So if they see that you cannot qualify at another bank, they have no incentive to give you a competitive rate, right? Because they know you're stuck where you're stuck, right? And this is also another thing that was being talked about within the mortgage industry, up with the big banks and the politicians as well, and with OFC as well, that if somebody is going to get renewed, they should have the ability to be able to go to any other bank and get renewed without having a renewal or producing other documents, because they don't need to. If you don't need to give it to TD, why do you need to give it to BMO? Right? And actually the competition committee, which regulates and makes sure that it's a level playing field for everybody, actually told OFC that, hey, this is not fair. You need to actually make it that it is fair to everybody. They should be able to go to another bank without having to requalify under the very, very strict rules that we have here in Canada for qualifying. Unfortunately, obviously did not, they ignored it. They pretty much threw it out the bucket. Then they're not going to go ahead with that. So I don't think that that's obviously not fair, right? But that's what the banks are looking at. They know that you cannot go anywhere else, especially if they know your financial situation, and they're not going to give you the most competitive rates.
This is a very, very important thing that which you have pointed out. Obviously, they take advantage of your situation. If they know that you can qualify with any other bank, and you might run away, leave them. Obviously, they would, in order to retain you, they would offer you a much better terms and better rate.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is a very valid and very important thing you've raised or told our viewers.
Yeah.
So, but the major problem coming with lots of buyers right now, they would like to buy properties, but they are not getting qualified, as you just said, due to higher rates. But now I think probably the rates have, what are the offerings right now, all the major banks? What are they offering?
So from a 5-year fixed rate perspective, you're looking at a low fives, right? If it's a conventional 20% down deal, if it is a insured deal, meaning CMHC, Sagen, or Canada Guarantee, you have less than 20% down, you have to take that, then you're looking at something close to the high fours. Right, and these are for the 5-year fixed terms, right? And gradually, as you make the years less, 4 is not really that popular, but 2 and 3 are more popular as well. You start to increase that respectively anywhere between 50 to 100 basis points as the years kind of come down, right? So, and then at that point of time, what we're also realizing, as you're saying, is qualification is hard. Some people only qualify with a 5-year rate. Right, they will qualify with a low 5. They will not qualify with a high 5. Right, so it's unfortunate a little bit for them, because if they really like the property they want to get into, they can because they qualify. But now for 5 years they're stuck with that high rate. Right, but if the option is that the person can take a lesser term of a 2 or a 3 years, it is more advisable for them, if they do qualify under those terms, to be able to take those rates as well. Right, and then speaking of the variable. Obviously, the variable is, again, going to be, prime is at 7.2. 7.2, right? So even if we're looking at prime minus 1, some banks are kind of offering that at this point of time. You're still.
Some are also offering, I think, prime minus 1.25. I just read it somewhere.
So those will, again, one of the weird things is, like, if you have less down payment, just because it's an insured mortgage, you get a lesser of a rate, right? If you have 20% down, and think about all the builder closings, which builder gives you a house for 5-10%? You're going to have a 20% down payment.
There is also a very
exactly, right? So you look at that situation, and you're kind of stuck with 20% down higher rate, less than 20% down, lower rate, but the key factor there is on the lower insured side, you're paying thousands of dollars in home insurance. So 20% with a higher rate is always a better financial situation, but that's the reason why you see 2 different rates for 2 different things, right? But variable right now, sure, it's a little bit of a risk taking, right? Will it come down in 9 months? Will it be 15 months, right? If you have the holding power, you can take that risk. But if you are in a situation where your dollars and numbers, just income and everything just matches to match, better be on the safe side and make sure that you don't run into any financial hardship in case if something crazy happens, rates go up, or if they just stay where they are for an extended period of time, right? So there's really no one solution, no one best thing like it used to be 4 or 5 years ago. No matter who you were, this was the best thing to take, right? Right now is all about your financial situation, where you are, how is your income, is it going to increase, decrease, right? Somebody who's 25, 27, in the next 5 years, very good chances their income will increase. Somebody in their 50s and 60s, very good chances their income will stay the same or might even decrease in the coming years. So it's very important that you work with a professional who can really guide you.
That is very important,
right now, right? So it's most important right now that you work with a competent professional.
Because I've been also advising my friends and all that. I mean, go for a shorter term. I mean, 2-3 years, and don't lock yourself up for 5 years. Because things going to change eventually. The rate's going to come down.
Yeah.
I mean, during this year and next year, it all depends how Bank of Canada is going to treat us.
Yeah.
And obviously, they are not going to cut the rate drastically. Obviously, they come down gradually and slowly, I believe.
Yes, as far that's a very, very good point. Is people are hoping for that cut, right? But when the cut comes, it's not going to rain cuts, right? It's going to be a gradual cutting that's going to happen, and that could take months and years on its own. I mean, there's only 8 opportunities for a cut in a whole year, right? So even if they do cut, then they pause, then they do another 25 basis points. It can be, you know, maybe 15, 16, a year and a half, 2 years before we see something that is more meaningful for the clients, right? Like if you say rates go down by 25 bips, I don't see that really making any big impact. It'll make noise, right? But the numbers on the paper, I don't think it's going to be that big of a difference. Why just 25, 50 basis points?
So if you have a longer amortization period, that would also help you in qualifying the mortgage?
Yeah, so what happens with the longer amortization is basically if you have a loan, right? You have to pay it in 25 years, now you have to pay it in 30 years, you got 5 extra years, all your payments get stretched out more, right? So your cost of monthly decreases, right? That allows you to get a bigger mortgage, right? But it's not in all cases where you can do that. One of the things is you need 20% down to be able to access that type of a product. Now I know very recently, if you have a pre-construction closing coming and you're a first-time home buyer, you can actually get a 30-year amortization insured by CMHC. But if you really look at the people that'll be applicable to, it is a very small percentage, and from what I've heard, it might even be less than 5% of the people it's going to make an impact on as well.
I'll talk more about it, I think, because this amortization and the role of CMHC. And CMHC, because majority of the people have been putting down 20% or more than 20%, so CMHC is out. So that's why CMHC has not been very happy about the whole situation. We'll talk about it. We'll have to go for a short break. When we come back, we'll talk about it. So going for a short break, stay with us.
Looking for a dream house?
Always have your own doctor and a realtor. There is no shortcut to experience and knowledge. You want to buy, sell, or invest? Residential or commercial? Experience the difference with Azfar Tahir, your full-time realtor for life.
I want to be a data scientist. That's something I'm passionate about. I want to bring a change in the medical aspect. Data scientists do collection of the data, then they analyze the data, and then they transform the data into meaningful conclusions. Algoma is unique because we get a chance to do one-on-one interaction with professor, and that's the best part.
The need of computer science graduate is huge. Nowadays, the industry demand is changing every day, and Algoma is adaptable. Algoma is changing its course content, changing the degree programs, and giving several certificate courses that the industry is actually looking for.
Personalized learning is the hallmark of Algoma's university experience. Algoma is offering the accelerated second degree. It's the only one in province.
Algoma not only just give us in-campus experience and skill set, but they also help us develop how to present ourselves in real world. Where do I see myself in 5 to 10 years? I see myself working at some multinational corporation as a data scientist. This is the first step towards my journey.
सुकून कैसा है बता नहीं सकता, सब घर वालों का भी यही हाल है। खुशी जैसे रूह में उतर सी गई हो, सच पूछें तो ये मुमकिन बनाया एच होम रियल्टी ब्रोकरेज की अनिला जहरा ने।
अपने ख्वाबों का घर आप भी पा सकते हैं, बस एक फोन कॉल और जिंदगी आसान।
Call Anila Zehra at 905-462-0133. Looking for a dream house?
Always have your own doctor and a realtor. There is no shortcut to experience and knowledge. You want to buy, sell, or invest? Residential or commercial? Experience the difference with Azfar Tahir, your full-time realtor for life. Welcome back to the Realtors Cafe, and thank you for staying with us. So before the break, we were talking about amortization period. और एक और बात मैं I would like to mention. During the break, हमारे कॉल आई थी और कॉलर ने पूछ रहे थे कि रेंट टू ओन मॉर्गेज इसके बारे में बताइए. I would like to just touch base. Rent to own is now an old concept because it used to be कि जो this is agreement between the tenant and the landlord, and the tenant probably would like to buy that property which he has rented after 2, 3, 4 years, and whatever the rent he's paying for that particular property, and this is an agreement between both the parties that rent would be treated as a down payment down the road when he purchases that property. That is a very old kind of a concept. हमारे कॉलर ने उन्होंने ये पूछा ड्यूरिंग द ब्रेक कि जी रेंट टू ओन मॉर्गेज के बारे में बताइए, तो उनको मैं थोड़ा सा ये एक्सप्लेन किया था कि अब वो ऐसा नहीं है. जब ज़ाहिर है इसने रेंट किया हुआ है, वो रेंटल से अपनी मॉर्गेज पे कर रहा है, आपके रेंट से ही इज पेइंग फॉर हिज ओन मॉर्गेज. कल को जब वो प्रॉपर्टी आप खरीदेंगे उससे वो पैसे तो जा चुके उसके पास, तो वो कहाँ से शो करेगा आपकी जो रेंटल अमाउंट है, डाउन पेमेंट कहाँ से शो करेगा. ये थोड़ा सा इस बारे am I right?
Yeah, 100%.
Did I explain a little?
Yeah, and you know, in recent years, ਅਸੀਂ ਦੇਖੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੀ ਕੋਈ ਐਵੇਂ ਦੀ ਸਿਚੁਏਸ਼ਨ ਆਈ ਤੇ ਸੈਂਸ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਥੋੜੀ ਜਿਹੀ ਮੇਕ ਕਰਦੀ ਹੈਗੀ, ਬਿਕਾਜ਼ ਆਪਾਂ ਅਗਰ ਪ੍ਰੋਪਰਟੀ ਵੈਲਿਊਜ਼ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਰਾਈਟ, ਅਗਰ ਆਪਣੀ 2-3 ਲੱਖ ਦੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਪਰਟੀ ਵੈਲਿਊ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ, ਬੰਦਾ 2-3 ਸਾਲ ਰੈਂਟ ਦੇ ਕੇ ਡਾਊਨ ਪੇਮੈਂਟ ਸੇਵ ਕਰਕੇ they can make a situation out, right? ਹੁਣ ਜਦੋਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ 8 ਲੱਖ 9 ਲੱਖ $1 million ਪ੍ਰੋਪਰਟੀਆਂ ਦੀ, ਜਿੰਨਾ ਬੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਰੈਂਟ ਦੇਣਾ, it's gonna take too long for anything like this to materialize, right? So in the recent years, this kind of product has been,
and also, you know, as I just said that, I mean, you're paying rent, okay, I am the tenant, you're the landlord. So I'm renting your property, so I'm paying you X amount of dollars every month as rental. So after 3 years, this is the agreement between you and me that I'm going to purchase that property after 3 years, and whatever rental amount I'm paying to you would be treated as my down payment after 3 years. Of you being the landlord or the owner of the property, obviously you have your own commitments, financial commitments, and you have your mortgage on the property, so you will be paying or supplementing your mortgage with that rental amount. So वो तो खा पी गए.
100%.
वो 3 साल बाद तो ਕਿਹੜੀ ਪੇਮੈਂਟ ਹੋਣੀ ਹੈ ਉਹਦੇ?
ਉਹਨਾਂ ਕੋਲੋਂ ਪੇਮੈਂਟ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਣੀ, ਤੇ ਉਹ ਜਿੰਨਾ ਕੁ ਰੈਂਟ ਆ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ ਅਗਰ ਪ੍ਰੋਪਰਟੀ ਕੈਸ਼ ਫਲੋ ਹੋ ਜਾਏ, ਰਾਈਟ, ਬੰਦੇ ਨੂੰ ਇੰਨਾ ਹੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੈ, ਰਾਈਟ. ਸੋ ਇਟਸ ਜਸਟ ਅ ਕਨਸੈਪਟ ਦੈਟਸ ਬੀਨ ਆਬਸੋਲੀਟ, ਐਂਡ recent ਸਾਲਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਦੇਖਿਆ ਕਿ ਕਿਤੇ ਵੀ ਕੋਈ ਸੈਂਸ ਮੇਕ ਕਰਦੀ ਹੋਏ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਰੈਂਟ.
That's exactly I said to our caller, our friend. Okay, this is the situation. I hope थोड़ा clear होगा आपका concept. Okay, as we were talking about the amortization period, and when if you have a longer amortization period, obviously it reduces your monthly payout, and obviously less burden on your shoulders, and obviously then the payment of mortgage gets longer, and it's delayed in a way. So. Because when we had this higher mortgage things and everybody was so upset and going through that turmoil, and then I think we heard that the government of Ministry of Finance or Bank of Canada announced that they are going to introduce longer amortization period, like 50 or 60 years period. So what happened to that?
So I think first of all, when we talk about amortization, right, we have to really think about it from a humanistic personal perspective, right? What was the goal, right? Why did we come up with the number 25 and 30, right? I think it's very important to understand that, because when you say 25, right, if I get a house at the age of 25, and I know if some of our young viewers are watching, it may be like, I'm 25, I'm 30, it's hard for me to get a home. We're in the situation right now, I understand, but the goal of that was, if you buy a house at the age of 25, 30, by the time you are 55, 60, you have paid off your house. Minimum payment, you have paid off your house. Now you're retiring, and it is, your house is yours, right? That's the concept, meaning by the time you reach that stage, you have
the property is paid off.
That's one most important thing to understand, right? And then the government and the Ministry of Finance and whoever is responsible for it, they have to keep that in mind, right? If you're giving somebody who's 30 years old a 60-year amortization, very likely that they're going to spend the rest of their life trying to pay that mortgage off.
And also, if you have a longer amortization period, then the majority of the payment, the portion, goes towards your interest.
Yes.
So it means you're not, paying off your principal, or so that is also extends your.
The goal of home ownership is to own the home at the end of the day, right? If you don't see that end of the day, I feel like, there was that.
You keep on paying.
You paid
the whole life. That's what called mortgage.
You might as well have rented, and there's a lot of other things, right? So that's one most important thing to keep in mind, right? So now let's say, even if we did want to bring in 50, 60 years, is it going to make it easier for people to afford? I think it will, right? It will make it better. But the government doesn't look at it from that perspective, because they have to have that initial thinking that I told you about. What's the concept of amortizing? It's not to pay mortgage forever. It's to be home, it's to leverage and be home free soon, right? So 50, 60 years fundamentally doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense,
right?
Yeah.
So we can say we can extend it, it'll make it easier for people, but okay, it'll make it easier in your 30s. But now you're hitting your 70s and you still have a $3,000 payment that you have to make, because at 70 you still have 10, 15 years left on your amortization, right? And I know people can be like, oh well, people should do something to pay it off faster and all of it, but why did you just put them in a product? People get comfortable, right? So ultimately there are these issues with that, right, which they will take into account for sure. And I think before we can even talk about 50, 60 years, we first have to see if CMHC will bring up their number from 25, right? And we have solutions where we can do up to 40 years right now. Right?
So that's what I was going to ask you. So, what are the options right now? 40 years amortization is available?
Yes, 40-year amortization is available. It's not going to be from your big banks, right? It's going to be from an alternative lending solution where the interest rates are a little bit on the higher end. But a 40 is basically a tool there. So how we're not talking about 50, 60, 70, right? We're talking about 40, which is only 10 years more than what the big banks will give you. And since the rates are a little bit higher for those products, it allows 10 more years to distribute your payments, right? And ultimately, their goal is also, at the end of the day, not to be there forever, right? It's a product, it's a solution.
That's right.
You take we don't have 40-year terms or 30-year terms. On the alternative side, you can have 1 to 3 year term. You can get a 5, but more popular are the 1 to 3. Within that time, let's figure out a solution how we can get you to the big banks, right? Until that time, what a mortgage payment will look like at a 25, 30-year amortization at the bank, the payment will look very similar with a 40-year amortization at an alternative lending.
Okay.
So it's an alternative solution, 40-year amortization, but the goal is not to pay your house in 40 years. It's let's figure it out within 2-3 years and let's get you to the banks. Ultimately, when you are settled, you always want to be at an A-lender, bank, mono lenders, First National, MCAP, any of those guys. That's your goal in the long run, right? But if you're trying to figure something out, these are solutions made for that, not forever.
Okay, no, that's very nice. Very, you explained it very in details. I must say that. I think हमारे व्यूज जो प्रोग्राम देख रहे हैं काफ़ी चीज़ें क्लियर हो गई होंगी और मेरे भी कॉन्सेप्ट्स काफ़ी क्लियर हो रहे हैं. So, बड़ा अच्छा Harry is explaining things in a very greater details with lots of supporting arguments and all that. Achha, secondly, right now the big banks, what is their the maximum? They're offering 30 years amortization.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. So if you have 20% down, then you can go up to 30%. If you have if you have an insured mortgage, so less than 20% down, less than $1 million property, then you're stuck with 25 years because it's an insured mortgage, unless you have a new pre-construction closing where they've given an exception for 30 years. But basically, insured mortgage, 25 years, 20% down or more, you're looking at 30 years.
अच्छा डियर व्यूअर्स दोस्तों, आप एक बात कर रहे हैं, ही इज टॉकिंग अबाउट इंश्योर्ड मॉर्गेज एंड अनइंश्योर्ड मॉर्गेज. ये थोड़ा सा आई थिंक कुछ लोगों ने पूछा भी था, they were asking कि क्या है. So okay, you explain that.
Yeah, I can clarify. So ਸਾਡੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਮੌਰਗੇਜ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ, ਆਪਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਇੰਸ਼ੋਰਡ ਮੌਰਗੇਜ, ਅਨਇੰਸ਼ੋਰਡ ਮੌਰਗੇਜ, ਕਨਵੈਨਸ਼ਨਲ ਇੰਸ਼ੋਰਡ ਮੌਰਗੇਜ, ਹਾਈ ਰੇਸ਼ੋ. ਇਹਦਾ ਕਨਸੈਪਟ ਮੈਂ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕਰਦਾ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਿੰਪਲ ਟਰਮ ਨਾਲ ਸਮਝਾ ਸਕਾਂ. ਪਹਿਲੀ ਗੱਲ, ਜਿਹੜੀ ਇੰਸ਼ੋਰਡ ਮੌਰਗੇਜ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ, ਇਟ ਇਜ਼ ਇੰਸ਼ੋਰਡ. ਇਟ ਇਜ਼ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਲਈ ਇੰਸ਼ੋਰਡ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦੀ, ਉਹ ਇੰਸ਼ੋਰਡ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਬੈਂਕ ਲਈ, ਲੈਂਡਰ ਲਈ. ਅਗਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ CMHC, ਹਾਂਜੀ, CMHC ਕੀ ਕਰਦੀ ਹੈ, ਅਗਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਮੌਰਗੇਜ ਪੇਮੈਂਟ ਨਹੀਂ ਦਿੰਦੇ, ਉਹ ਬੈਂਕ ਨੂੰ ਕੰਪਨਸੇਟ ਕਰਦੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ मतलब borrower ने default करता, ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ protect
insuring funds on behalf of the bank, the Canada Mortgage Housing
not insurance for the borrower, insurance for the lender. ਠੀਕ ਹੈ, ਤੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਐਕਸੈਪਸ਼ਨਸ ਆ ਜਾਂਦੇ, ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਰਿਸਟ੍ਰਿਕਸ਼ਨਸ ਆ ਜਾਂਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਰਟੀ ਇੱਕ ਤਾਂ $1 million ਤੋਂ ਘੱਟ ਦੀ ਹੋਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈ. ਠੀਕ ਹੈ, ਤੇ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਡਾਊਨ ਪੇਮੈਂਟ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਯੂਜੂਅਲੀ 20% ਤੋਂ ਲੈਸ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ. 20% ਤੋਂ ਮੋਰ ਵੀ ਇੰਸ਼ੋਰਡ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੀ ਹੈ, ਪਰ ਯੂਜੂਅਲੀ ਅਗਰ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ 20% ਲੈਸ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ, ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਇੰਸ਼ੋਰਡ ਮੌਰਗੇਜ ਹੀ ਲੈਣੀ ਪਊਗੀ ਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਰਟੀ ਵੈਲਿਊ $1 million ਤੋਂ ਘੱਟ ਲੈਣੀ ਪਏਗੀ. ਠੀਕ ਹੈ, ਤੇ ਐਮੋਰਟਾਈਜੇਸ਼ਨ 25 ਇਅਰਸ ਹੀ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ. ਠੀਕ ਹੈ, ਤੇ ਅਗਰ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਰਟੀ $1 million ਤੋਂ ਮੋਰ ਹੈ, automatically ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ 20% ਡਾਲ ਦੇਣਾ
ਪਏਗਾ. If it's the property value is $1 million or more than $1 million, then minimum down payment is 20% minimum.
Yes, because ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਸ ਮੌਰਗੇਜ ਨੂੰ ਇੰਸ਼ੋਰਡ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ. ਸੋ ਮਿਨੀਮਮ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਡਾਊਨ ਪੇਮੈਂਟ 20% ਹੋਗੀ, ਪਰ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਆਪਸ਼ਨ ਮਿਲਦੀ ਹੈ ਅਗਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ 25 ਜਾਂ 30 ਈਅਰ ਦੀ ਐਮੋਰਟਾਈਜੇਸ਼ਨ ਲੈਣੀ ਹੈ.
Okay.
And most people go for the 30.
Okay.
Most people go for that.
That's very nice. ये क्लियर हो गई गल जी. ये जो सुन रहे हैं हमारे दोस्त कि मिलियन से कम है तो आपकी इंश्योर्ड हो सकती है, मिलियन से ऊपर है then you have to go for minimum 20% down payment, और वो uninsured होती है, इसमें then CMHC is out, so that is called conventional mortgage. Am I right?
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. Another burning issue these days regarding pre-construction scenario. A lot of people they would like to go for pre-construction, get the pre-construction, but the people who booked their properties about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, which are now ready for possession, and they have to arrange for their mortgages. Even I mean, few months ago, I came across few people, and they were going through pretty bad situation. So for pre-construction buyers and for their mortgages, what you would like to tell our viewers about that?
Yeah, so pre-construction is in a unique spot right now, right? And it has a lot to do with timing, right? If you bought in 2019, in maybe early sometime in 2020, property values kind of skyrocketed quite a bit after that. So you may be in a position where the property value went up and it came back down to similar or maybe even a little bit higher, right? And one thing we also have to remember is the location, right? GTA is still doing decently strong, especially on our side, Toronto, Markham, Brampton, Mississauga area. Oshawa side's a little bit on the weaker side. And then if you bought in, Paris, Ontario and other places, they have taken even a bigger hit, right? So timing and location is first off key. And then the couple things people are facing right now is, one is, did you buy one or did you buy four, right? Because you can maybe get financing for one or two at the banks, maybe, right? Maybe, but then what happens with the other two, right? The other thing is people are facing is your appraisal. So appraisal in today's day and age is very
that's very important. I was coming to, okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
I was going to ask
a little bit upon it, then I'll take your question as well. But appraisal is very important right now. All lenders want you to do appraisal because they want to assess what is the value today, right? And then depending on what the value is today, and then obviously if it's $1 million or not, then you have a choice of how much down payment, right? But if you bought it, you likely gave 20% down anyways for the property, right? If your appraisal comes under, then you have to find a way to bridge that gap.
Bridge that
if you
gap.
bought a property for $1 million, appraisal came for 900, right? We can get you a mortgage, 80%, 90% on 900, but where is that 100 going to come from? So you have to figure out a solution.
Because a lot of people are facing this problem. They book with the builder, through the builder, and after 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, depending on the size of the project, the condominiums, they take a lifetime to finish.
5, 7 years.
7 years, 8 years. I remember a few projects that took 8, 9 years.
Yeah.
And so let's take every 3 to 4 years. But the market, the last year and a half, the real estate market was pretty bad. It was struggling, and the prices came down.
Mm-hmm.
So those people who book with the builder, their purchase price was different, and when they come for the mortgage, okay, they have to close their properties or applying for the mortgages. And but the banks are coming up with a different price. Obviously, they're that appraisal.
The appraisal.
So they have to bridge the gap. So they don't have enough sufficient funds to bridge the gap. So they are in dire straits.
Yeah, they are. They are.
What would you like to tell?
So there's, sometimes you can find a solution, right? And usually it can be that, do you have any other properties? Right? If you have another property which you bought maybe before, even if you have a principal residence which has skyrocketed within the last few years, what you can do is you can actually either refinance and get some money out of that to bridge the gap. You can get a second mortgage on that property to be able to bridge the gap, right? Borrowing money and stuff like that, depending on which lender you're going with, you may be restricted. You cannot just take money from anyone, right? The big banks like you to take money only from immediate family members, right? So not friends or any dur ke rishtedar, nothing like that, right? But if you're gonna go with a private solution, then maybe you can get the dur ke rishtedar, friends and extended friends and families to be able to give you the money, right? So it really depends. But right now is what you have to realize is, you have to realize what is your situation, right? And are you stuck, right? And for you, it may be that you have a lot of capital. You can bring money, right, from different places, and you are able to bridge the gap. You're able to get a mortgage, all good. If you cannot, then if you tap into or you take another loan to bridge the gap, right, then maybe your best situation is that you need to close the property. Always make sure that you close the property, because you're going to lose the deposit. If you bought the property for 500 and the builder sells it for 400 and your deposit was 50, they're going to come after you for the other 50. So just because you let go of 50, it's not end of the road. So you want to make sure, do in all capacity to close, sell the property right after.
That's very nice.
And exit out. Close the property and exit out. It's an investment. Sometimes they don't go the way they need to.
The thing is, people don't realize that they don't understand at that point in time.
Yeah.
Because it happened, with me in a couple of situations. I think we will talk about that, because there are lots of other questions or topics I wanted to discuss with you. The problem is the time constraint.
Absolutely.
We have some limited time for our show. So hopefully, we'll invite you again.
Absolutely.
And probably we talk about these things and some other current issues at length.
Yep.
So I would like you to tell our viewers about your company, your contact number, if they would like to contact you for residential or commercial mortgages, financing, A lender, B lender, C lender, private lenders. You deal with all the lenders.
Yeah, for
would like to give your coordinates?
Yeah. Again, we're located at 7025 Tompkin Road, right above Premium Suites, Unit 235. We're a full suite mortgage brokerage, residential and commercial. Obviously, right now, a lot of people are stuck with certain situations on the residential side. So we're helping them with exit strategies by bringing out seaside and private mortgages, if that's a solution for them. We help a lot of business for self. अपने पाजी जेडे ट्रक चलाते ने, plumbing करते ने, उन्हां दा जेड़ा self-employed business हैगा, not always ਆਪਾਂ बैंक च जाके mortgage नहीं ले सकते हैगे because of the way we do our taxes and all the other situation. ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹ ਪਾਜੀਆਂ ਲਈ ਜਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ help ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਿ B side ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ minimal rate ਤੇ minimal fees ਨਾਲ good mortgage ਲਿੱਤੀ ਜਾਏ. And ਸਾਡੀ job ਉੱਥੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਖਤਮ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈਗੀ. We also take it to make sure that ਅਗਰ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ situation ਅੱਜ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ B side ਤੇ ਜਾਂ C side ਤੇ, ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ A side ਤੇ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਜਾਣਾ ਹੈ ਅਗਲੇ ਸਾਲ ਜਾਂ ਅਗਲੇ 2 ਸਾਲਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ. So goal is always to take it to the A side. ਤੇ A side ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਵੱਡਿਆਂ ਬੈਂਕਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਦੇ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮੋਨੋ ਲੈਂਡਰਸ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਓਨਲੀ ਮਾਰਗੇजेस ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ ਬਟ ਆਫਸੀ ਵਾਂਗੂ ਏ ਲੈਂਡਰਸ ਵਾਂਗੂ ਰੈਗੂਲੇਟਡ ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ ਸੋ ਦ ਬੈਸਟ ਰੇਟਸ ਇਨਸ਼ੋਰਡ ਕਨਵੈਨਸ਼ਨਲ one credit check, access to all lenders and all solutions for all your mortgage needs. Again, if you need to contact me, you can contact me at 416-676-0004. Sadi email hegi hai info@activelending.ca.
And this is Harry Atley.
And my name is Harry Atley.
Okay. So thank you very much, and thanks for your time. I mean, I know you've been very busy.
No, it was a pleasure to be
And,
here. Thank you so much for having me, Azfar.
Pleasure is ours, and thank you, and hopefully we'll invite you again,
Yeah,
because there
look forward
are lots of things, and there's a lot of things that are happening. I mean, in the mortgage industry, I mean, at this point in
and
time,
it's going to keep evolving, right? Because
even on daily
rates are
basis,
coming,
things are changing, and
what America's going to do, America's got elections coming. They're dealing with all of it.
we'll talk about
we
that
have an
probably in
impact
our
on
next
that.
show.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I have lots of things to discuss, so I think we'll invite you in our next show, and then we'll talk about all the American situation, American economy, what America is doing with their rates and all that, because I wanted to touch on those issues, but due to time constraint, I couldn't do
look forward to
that.
coming
So once
again.
again, Harry, thank you very much for coming to Realtors Cafe, and hope to see you soon. So, dear viewers, I hope कि आपको ये प्रोग्राम आपका पसंद आया होगा, because ये बड़ा आजकल burning issue है जी, mortgage rates and all that, इसलिए मैंने I thought कि ये I think काफ़ी appropriate होगा कि हम invite some professional from the mortgage industry to talk about and touch base on all these issues. तो बड़े अच्छा इन्वेस्टमेंट किया, तो नेक्स्ट आई थिंक प्रोग्राम में इनको फिर इनवाइट करेंगे, एंड विल टॉक और डिस्कस फर्दर ऑन दीज इश्यूज. सो आई वुड लाइक टू थैंक यू वंस अगेन. थैंक यू फॉर वाचिंग रियल्टर्स कैफे विद अज़फर ताहिर. आपकी ईमेल्स आती रहती हैं, बहुत अच्छा लगता है आपकी ईमेल्स पढ़ के, एंड प्लीज कीप शूटिंग योर ईमेल्स टू अस. वंस अगेन आवर ईमेल इज whatsapptorontotv@gmail.com, whatsapptorontotv@gmail.com. सो अज़फर ताहिर को इजाज़त दीजिए. Until next time, bye-bye.
Looking for a dream house?
Always have your own doctor and a realtor. There is no shortcut to experience and knowledge. You want to buy, sell, or invest? Residential or commercial? Experience the difference with Azfar Tahir, your full-time realtor for life.